Okay, well, let's get started then. So today's seminar is on first-time homebuyers, what first-time homebuyers need to know. And so, as I always say that, this is my business model, plan, action, results. And we all know that in order for us to be successful, we need to have a good plan. And a good plan is halfway to success, we know that. And correct information is critical for a good plan to be possible. Professional assistance, of course, is crucial to achieve a complex goal. Real estate transaction is a complex process. It is not hard, but it's complex. So, and as we move on, then we need to understand, first and foremost, we need to understand the home buying process, whether it's first time or subsequent home purchases. So every time that we are getting into the home buying process, you need to identify a trustworthy real estate agent who can represent you, can and will represent you in your best interest to guide you, to educate you about the home buying process, and will explain to you and provide resources to help you achieve your real estate goal. And the second most important thing is to consult an experienced loan agent. That is important because, first of all, having spoken with a loan agent, that you will know what you can afford, what kind of loan programs you will be qualified for, because there are just so many loan programs out there that, and they are also changing according to the needs of the market. And so with an experienced loan agent, that you'll find out what you can afford, what's the interest rates. And a lot of times people will just look at interest rates, but interest rates are not the only numbers that you should consider. An experienced loan agent will be able to share with you what are the important components of a loan during the loan process. And also, it is very important, more so now than ever before, that you need to get a loan pre-approval, not to just know about how much you can afford, what kind of loan payments, what kind of mortgage payments that you're comfortable with, but you will also need to have a pre-approval letter in order to get into a property nowadays, because we are in the COVID-19 pandemic situation. Sellers are trying to minimize strangers coming into their homes. So they are now asking for buyers to show the proof of funds, to show pre-approval letter before they can even schedule a showing of the property. And we will touch on the COVID-19 situation and the real estate market. And then once you have those two pieces, the two most important people in your home buying process, then you now have all the information that you need to identify your home search criteria. First and foremost, your price range. Then we always hear about location, location, location. Then where do you want to live? In relations to your workplace. And nowadays, with a lot of people working from home, then are we going to see more people moving out of the main commercial hubs where they're close to the offices? So things are changing. And then what kind of community do you like to live in? You want single family homes, you want townhouses, you want condos, or you want to be close to a park, public transportation, and so on. So once you get that, then I will call it the end of stage one, that you identify your needs and wants. Then after that, then we are getting into stage two. Stage two is the actual viewing of properties. The actual viewing of properties, and then, every property that a buyer will buy, most of the time, I say 99% of the time, buyers will actually see the property before they will make the decision. But nowadays it may be a little bit different, but that is still a very important process. But, most buyers now, they will view online, they will find out which properties. Buyers are also minimizing the number of properties that they want to go see. And so viewing properties and evaluate properties viewed. And then, once you have the list of properties that you have seen, it could be just 3-4 homes, not a whole lot. And then from those 3-4 homes, because you have already screened them online, you've seen the virtual tours, you've seen the video tours, now you are ready to go see the actual properties. So even though sometimes buyers may only see 2-3 homes, 3-4 homes, and there's one that they really want to buy, then that is the time that they consider submitting an offer. Then when we submit an offer, then we will discuss the price and terms. The offer price, we don't just pick a number, what number you feel comfortable offering. We will actually look at the comps, what's in the market, what are the recent activities, are there multiple offers, we consider all of that, and before we submit an offer. Pre-approval letters and proof of funds documents are usually needed and required by the seller. So they don't want to just talk with you if you're not a ready, willing, and able buyer. Then the negotiation will begin at that point. Then seller may accept, reject, or negotiate with you during this process. And when the seller negotiates with you, then we are also talking about not just the price. The terms may be also important. How long is the escrow? Or can the seller rent back, so on and so forth. Is the seller gonna leave the refrigerator? That's always one of the questions that the buyers ask. And when both buyer and seller agree on price and terms, then a ratified contract is formed, the transaction will begin. And this, I consider the end of stage 2, from viewing properties to actually getting into escrow. Then stage 3, then when you get to stage 3, then we are getting very close to closing now. So once you identify your property that we are in escrow, then we are gonna be reviewing a lot of documents, a lot of disclosures, a lot of reports, because you want to know what exactly you are buying. And then this transaction timeline is usually between 25 to 30 days, and contingencies shall be removed in a timely manner. And that is, the contingencies are part of the terms of a contract. Contingencies most likely will include the inspection contingency, the disclosure review contingency, and loan contingency, and if there's an HOA, the HOA documents review. So some of these contingencies are lumped into the property physical condition contingency. So then, if I'm your agent, I will be guiding you along during this process. And then if applicable, after you have reviewed all of the disclosures and reports, there may be things that you want sellers to repair. The roof has a hole, but maybe you will not buy that. But let's just say that, for example, then you want the seller to repair the hole in the roof before you close escrow. Then the seller may say, okay, I will repair it for you, or then the seller may say that I will credit you a certain amount of money, you can fix it yourself. So nowadays it's more and more common, if there's any problem, that the seller will credit the buyer a certain amount of money, because that way that they don't have to deal with, after close of escrow, they deal with, oh, this is not properly done, just minimize the conflicts after the transaction. After the transaction, buyer and seller, they go in separate ways, and there will be no more communication. That's preferred. So after all the contingencies are removed, then I will consider the end of stage 3. So that will include the removal of a loan contingency. That is always the biggest sticker. So once you remove the loan contingency, then that I would consider, approaching closing. And what do you need to do when you get to that point is if you're renting, you notify your landlord that you have already found your home and you will need to move out. Then actually, you will need to look at your lease before you even start this process, because sometimes buyers come to me and they say, but I have a lease all the way through, say, end of the year. So now we are in August. What if, I find a house that I want by September? So that is something that you need to discuss with your landlord. And sometimes they are accommodating because the rental market, believe it or not, is still very, very strong. And a lot of times the landlord will have no problem allowing you to end the lease early, as long as you can provide a replacement tenant, or you will allow the landlord to show the property to prospective tenants who will take over your lease. So things like that you need to discuss with your landlord, then I will not have any definite answers. But sometimes I also have tenants of my clients that they say, well, I don't mind paying rent all the way through the end of the lease because that will allow me time to move slowly. I recently had a buyer who bought her condo, but she still had really 3 months of lease left on, 3 months left on her lease, and she decided to keep the lease. But that allowed her sufficient time, moving slowly without having to stress out. So then after that, you need to arrange for your move-in, and we'll do the final walkthrough, usually 5 days before close of escrow. And the day before close of escrow is all of your funds, including your own down payment and the lender's funds, will need to be in escrow at least 1 day before closing, so that the title company will be able to release the file for closing. So here is a general transaction timeline for you. Usually it's from 25 to 30 days of a transaction. If you are an all cash buyer, then your escrow can be so short. And if you don't want, if you're an all cash buyer and you don't want to do any inspections, you don't want to have time to review any reports, so you can close, within a couple of days. But usually this process is for people who need a loan. So if you would like this flowchart, the home buying process flowchart, and also the general transaction timeline that I just showed you, just please email me and I will be happy to send it to you. Now,
real quick, before you jump into that, do you want to just touch on a couple questions?
Sure.
So Yusuf asked, how does the negotiation process work with new home construction versus a private seller?
New home constructions, usually new home constructions that you don't, you just go into the sales office, and I would suggest for you to go in with your agent to register, because usually they require registration. But for new home constructions, you don't see the actual property. You see, they show you model homes, you can tour model homes, but nowadays under COVID, that even looking at model homes, you still need to schedule. And then the new home sites usually have their in-house lender, that they want you to talk to the in-house lender, even if you already have your outside lender, because they want to make sure that the buyers of their properties are qualified. They just want to double check on that. And for buying new homes, that you are buying a future property that is still under construction. And so if you already have a home that you want to absolutely buy a new home, then you're welcome to visit the new home sites, and I'll be happy to go visit them with you.
Yeah, and then there's multiple others that we'll catch at Q&A at the end. So I don't want anybody to feel they're being left out. But just the first question that was asked by Tara is just, what about homeowners providing or allowing for required inspections during COVID? Because I'm assuming that's where she was going with that. So if you could touch on that, and then we can answer the rest of these ones I see coming in at the end.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Yeah, home sellers, they will allow home inspections. They will allow require inspections, and there's not a problem. It's not getting in the way of the transaction process. Did I answer the question? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, then we'll actually touch on the COVID things in a couple of slides. And first and foremost, that we need to understand how the real estate market works. The real estate market is actually as simple as supply and demand. It's just economics 101. When the demand is high, the supply is low, which is, okay, I'm jumping to the third bullet here. When the supply is low, demand is high, prices will go up. That is the market that we are in, that we have been in since 2011. So, because in California, especially in the entire country, that housing supply has been very, very low since 2008. And I believe that has something to do with the home builders' confidence at that point. However, that just as of yesterday, I heard that the home builders' confidence have jumped way high, is at the highest point since the 2008 crash. And so knowing that, we know that supply is defined by available homes, both new and existing, that are on the market for buyers who want to buy. And the demand is defined by the number of ready, willing, and able buyers. All of these components will have to exist in order to define demand. Able buyers are those who are financially ready, who have been pre-qualified with a loan to purchase a home, or who have the cash to close escrow. So that's the fundamentals of the real estate market for you. So now we're talking about COVID-19 and real estate. And real estate is considered essential business, and I'm grateful for that. And that is because homes are something that everybody needs. And so the COVID-19 is not going to stop people from growing up. It's not going to stop people from getting married. You know, some people may have to postpone their wedding plans, but they're not stopping people from having babies, and they are not stopping people from graduating from colleges. They're not stopping people from advancing in their career, even under COVID. So real estate is a very important part of people's life. However, there are very, very strict guidelines during this COVID situation. No open houses are allowed, and showing guidelines are very strict. And all property visitors, myself included, anybody who wants to visit a property will have to sign a property advisory and declaration form. And that is to acknowledge that we understand that there's the COVID-19 pandemic going on, and when we go into these properties, we have to wear our face masks and use hand sanitizers and shoe covers provided, and you know, so on and so forth. And if the property is still owner occupied, then we're not supposed to touch anything. And if we do, then first of all, then you need to put your gloves on, and then you have to wipe down everything that you touched. So we have to bring wipes, hand sanitizers, and all that good stuff. And also strict requirements about how many people are allowed into the property. And only one person on the agent side is allowed, and two people from the same household on the client side may enter the property. So before, you know, even if I wanted to bring Bill with me so that he can answer my clients' loan questions, now I cannot do that. You know, I have to do it by myself. And also, even if you live next door to me, then I'm not allowed to pick you up and put you in my car to go show properties to you. Okay. And under COVID-19, the housing supply continues to be short. And, just as of yesterday, I showed a house in Concord. It was not even on the market yet. It was a coming soon listing. There were 3 buyers who went to see it, and they got 2 offers above asking. And that's the market we are in under COVID-19. Buyers viewing properties are serious buyers, and they are ready to make offers, and that's what happened. Multiple offers are still very common, and home prices continue to rise. As much as some people think that, oh, the market is going to crash, the market is not crashing anytime soon. And let's see, what about the post-COVID-19 real estate? Buyers who put their home buying plans on hold. I'm sure some buyers are putting their home buying plans on hold right now because they don't feel comfortable going out to other people's properties, and some buyers are thinking that the market is going to crash. So anyway, whatever people think, after COVID-19 is clear, which is maybe probably by spring next year or summer next year, who knows, right? But right now, as the bidding wars are continuing, I would say that after COVID-19 is over, the bidding wars will be even more intense then, because we will see pent-up demand. Wealth gap will be widened between the haves and have-nots, and of course, I'm talking about houses, home ownership. Then people who own now will see that will feel so grateful by the post-COVID time, because right now some people have lost their jobs and some people have been pushed to the unable to buy category because of the lost hours and lost income. But whoever can afford to buy, whoever continue to make offers and getting into contracts, those people are driving the home prices to go up at this time. And then if we're talking about in a year from now, we're not talking about 2-3 years from now. In a year from now, we'll see the home buyers all coming back into the market, and then they will see the prices skyrocketing. And then at that time, I don't see any possibility that home builders will be building enough homes for all of the home buyers to buy. So we're still talking about an even more serious housing shortage in a year. And then at that point, the wealth gap will widen, because whoever owns property will feel that they're so much wealthier than, because they will not need to fight with other people who will be in the market at that time. But then if the buyers who decided not to buy now, but decided, in a year from now when COVID is over, then they will see themselves in a much higher market price situation. Then also by that time, interest rates, from what I heard, will go up. Right now we are at the historically low interest rate. Bill will probably touch on that. And inflation will be inevitable. Then we are talking about, even the groceries, will see higher prices, and some of the products will see higher prices. But let me tell you, real estate, if you own your own home, that you will be so happy that, because real estate is the only thing, is the best defense against inflation. Because when everything else have higher prices, and so will the home that you're living in. So the differences between 2008 and 2020, because I've heard it so many times that some buyers are saying, well, 2008 the market was so bad, so now it's 2020, so many people lost their jobs, then the market is going to crash. And the matter of the fact is that the market hasn't crashed since March, and it's going up stronger than ever. But then they would tell me that, well, it's not crashing yet, but it will. Just give it time. I really don't see it happening. You know, I've been following all the economic reports, financial reports, and all that stuff. But, you know, like I said earlier, that the real estate market is governed by supply and demand. In, in 2008, before the 3 years leading up to 2008 crash, you know, the market was just totally different. It was fueled by buyers with no cash, no down payment, no credit, and no proof of funds, and no employment. You know, everybody could buy. You know, how could that be a healthy market? It was set up to be a failure. It was set up to crash. But then in 2020, since 2011, we have been seeing a lot of all cash buyers. 2011 to 2015, so many all cash buyers were in the market. And then, you know, from 2015, the lenders started to loosen up their requirements. So then buyers could come in with some down payment, and they would be able to get loans. But still, on the buyer side, they were still coming in with substantial down payments, 50%, 40%, 30%, even until recently, a lot of buyers are still putting 20% down. But then now in 2020, the difference is that in 2008, I have record that at that time, you remember Antioch was on the news all the time because of all the foreclosure numbers, and Oakland was also on the news. But you know, this morning I checked. Then in Antioch there were only 70 listings, but then in 2008, Antioch alone had 1177 listings. And so, you know, with that kind of supply and demand that we talked about, you know, how could that be any crash? There's no crash. You know, in order for a market to crash, there will have to be substantial supply increase, and then buyers are not buying at all. Then we may see a crash, but I really don't see it happening. Okay, and is it myth or fact? The real estate market will crash due to COVID-19. If not now, it will crash in 3 months. And we just talked about that. It is, of course, false. In Antioch, you know, if in Antioch alone, we only have 70 listings. And, you know, let us just look at some numbers. In Alameda, there are only 50 listings. In Berkeley, there are 80 listings. San Leandro, 51. Hayward, 118. All these numbers are very, very low numbers for home buyers who want to buy a home. Pleasanton, 74. Dublin, 63. And, you know, coming over to the Contra Costa area, Orinda, 46 listings. Lafayette, 36. And even in Walnut Creek, we have 175 listings. And it may sound like a lot, but that includes 13 of them that are coming soon. But in any normal market pre-2008 crash, in Walnut Creek, we would be seeing 250 listings at any given time. That was the normal market we were in for years. But now, 165 is still very, very low compared to what the demand is telling us. Pleasant Hill, 36 listings, Concord 98 listings. That include 11 of them coming soon. So there you have it. The real estate market is not going to crash. So many people lost their jobs. Nobody has money to buy. That is also false. A lot of people lost their jobs. Yes, I really feel sorry for them. And but look at you guys. You guys are still working, and you guys are attending this seminar. That you are ready and willing, but you just need to find out whether or not you're able at this point. So the people who lost their jobs, unfortunately, they are mostly in the lower income bracket, and they may have some impact in the market, but not enough to cause the market to crash. Interest rates are so low, mortgage payments are cheaper than rent. And let's see about this answer. It was actually true. Interest rates are really low. It's 3% or less, then I'll let Bill confirm that with you. Owning your home is like feeding your own piggy bank. Let's see about this one. Well, it is true. Because when you make your monthly mortgage payments, if you're renting now, you make the payment and you don't get any tax benefits. But if you own your own home, not only will your monthly mortgage payment going towards the principal of your home, and your interest payment will be tax deductible as well as your property tax. So in short, when you file your tax return, you will be able to change your withholding the following year so that your net take-home pay will be higher. And that's the benefit that the renters will not get. If you're a renter, if you're lucky, then you may have $200 renter's credit at the end of the tax return. But if your income level, I'm sure most of your income level is high enough to disqualify you to get any renter's credit benefits. Now, figuring out your buying power. There are ways to pay for your home purchase. You can either come up with all cash, or you can get an institutional loans. When it comes to loans, I always defer to Bill because he is an expert and he knows all kinds of financing options. And the common option is conventional loan, and there are FHA loans and VA loans. VA loans, you don't even need any down payments, and other loan options, I'll let Bill talk about it. So, well, thank you very much for listening to my part of the presentation, and I will be happy to answer your questions at the end of Bill's presentation. So let me bring Bill up.
I think they can everybody hear me? If you're online, just wave. I mean, if you're on screen, or just type in a yes on the chat. Great, great, great. And I don't know, are you able to see when we do the screen share, to see what's being placed there, or the faces and names and everything taking up the majority of your screen? If that's the case, you can hover over and move that, slide it over. You'll see the arrow that allow you to move the participants over and see more of the screen. And if you want to do a share screen for me, Ellen, I'll get mine on.
Yes, it's ready for you.
Okay, tell me when you can see.
It's ready for you.
Okay, hold on. Sorry, guys.
Yes.
Okay, you could see that?
Yes.
All right, let's jump into it. So again, I'm Bill Shurey. I'm with Land Home Financial. I've been in the business about 30 years. Company's been in business over 30 years. We're a local mortgage banker. I'm gonna just cover some basics here. Are you ready to buy a home? What goes into the pre-qualification process? Talk about facts about the lending process, and of course a little commercial why you should choose Land Home. Obviously you are ready to buy a home because you're here. That's the first step, is to realize it's time. And if you're like many today, owning a home is probably a dream of yours. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad we can participate and hopefully help you out. We're going to talk about what the pre-qualification process is, your employment status, credit history, down payment, and what you can afford, not only in mortgage payment, but that will equate to how much home you can afford as well. So when we're looking at qualifying, obviously the first thing we're going to look at is your job. We want to know that you have 2 years or more employment. Questions are asked, do I have to be at my job for 2 years? And you don't have to be at the same job for 2 years. You just have to have a 2-year history that we can document. So if you just made the move over to Caltrans, you're fine. We can use your income as it stands now. We just have to demonstrate that there's been 2 years. If there's been any large gaps, income levels been changing, we could still probably do it if we have a very good explanation. So it's, again, just looking at your situation. The big part after the job is obviously credit. We're going to ask you for all your debts, what you owe, what the payments, but we're also going to pull a credit report. That's a huge part of the qualification process. And, the 3 bureaus that we pull for, and we have to pull from all 3, is Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. And as a lender, we're going to throw out the high score, the low score, and we're going to take your mid score. I always tell people you don't need perfect credit. There's programs out there that will take less than perfect credit to qualify. And what I do with my clients, if there are issues when we pull a credit report, and that's why it's good to do your pre-qualification up front to maybe flag some issues that you may have. And if there are issues that may prevent you from jumping in now, we can analyze the report, create a roadmap, and help you get to that point to be able to buy maybe 6 months down the road or a year down the road. We're not just going to say, oh, nope, you don't have good enough credit, we can't do it. We'll work with you to get you on that path to home ownership. Down payment. One of the biggest myths that I always hear is that you have to have 20% down to buy a home. You do, in most cases, need a down payment and have to have funds for closing costs as a baseline, but you do not need 20% down. On conventional loans, which the majority of the loans that we do, we have a minimum of 3%. There's government-sponsored loans that are FHA that's 3.5%. And I saw a question in there about programs for public employees, and there are down payment assistance programs out there that can help and assist you with the down payment or the closing costs. And we could talk about that offline further if you're interested. Also want to point out that gift funds are available. If you're fortunate enough to have a family relative that would invest in your dream of home ownership, you can have a gift for down payment and closing costs as well. So just get over, I don't want people to be fixated and say, oh, I can never buy a home, I can't save money to get 20% down. You don't need it. One of the, obviously what you're doing with the pre-qualification is to decide, what can you afford? And on a payment will dictate what kind of home price that you can afford. I always push now to get out there and look, because as it was mentioned, we are in historic interest rate lows. I've been in the business, I said, almost 30 years. I've never seen rates as low as they are now, and lower rates are going to impact your qualifying ability. You'll qualify for more at a lower rate, obviously, than you would at a higher rate. So it's a very good time to get in and see about what you would qualify for. And talk about a payment so you understand that when we qualify you, we're looking at a mortgage payment that's principal and interest based off a set interest rate, but you also will have property taxes, and you will have homeowners insurance. And in some cases, if you're looking at a townhome or a condominium, there'll be a homeowners association. So we're taking all those numbers and lumping them together for one payment, looking at your income to see with your other debts, what you qualify for. Lenders will use ratios. There's a housing ratio, and then there's an overall debt ratio. And we're just trying to match that up with your income to the debt to see that you qualify within that ratio. And I touch on this, if you do put less than 20% down, you will have what's called mortgage insurance. And all that is a fee that's protecting the lender in the event, worst case event, that you did suffer a hardship, maybe had to go into foreclosure, that loan would be covered. And again, we could talk about that later as well. I don't know what happened to my screen, my picture. Again, Ellen touched on this, what to do first. You have to get pre-approved first. And I'll talk about what documents we would need in the products going forward. But why you have to get pre-qualified, obviously she said, post-COVID, before COVID, you could on weekend decide, hey, let's go look at some homes, let's go see what's out there. And you can go to any home you wanted to that was having an open house and walk through it and check it out. That's not the case anymore. You cannot step foot into the house unless you have a pre-qualification letter. You have talked to a lender and they have kind of given you that stamp of approval to be out looking at the homes. So that's critical, that's number one. But obviously it's for you to know what you qualify for. Most realtors will require that you do talk to a lender before you get in their car to go look, because they want to make sure they're showing you only homes that you qualify for. Some people may have high hopes on a certain home that they're not at that level yet. So why look at that? Just look at what you qualify for. And, before the COVID, we'd always say you want to get not only a pre-qualification, but a little step further, which is a pre-approval. What that is you're giving the documents you're going to see, allowing me to do what's called a TBD approval. That's a to be determined. You don't have a property yet, but you're applying for the loan. We take you in, get all the documentation, and get you in front of an underwriter, and then you're pre-approved. It just gets you more competitive in this market that she was talking about that is very strong. There's a lot of buyers out there with a low inventory. So you are going to come up against maybe multiple offers, and having the fact that you are pre-approved, we can close quickly, kind of brings you not directly parallel with a cash buyer, but puts you in a better position to compete for that offer. Our pre-approvals are generally 90 days. That's only because of the credit. I've got people that have been pre-approved for 180 days, even a year. We just update as we go. Pull a new credit report after the one expires, just keep getting updated, pay stubs, as long as there's no change in your employment history to the negative. Those tend to go until you're ready to purchase. Just to touch on what you would need. Obviously, we're going to do a loan application, gathering all your personal information. We want to know your employment income information, so we're going to want W-2s, pay stubs. If you're self-employed, which obviously you're Caltrans, you're not, we would want tax returns. But if there's anything, if you happen to have rental income for whatever reason, if you're a first-time home buyer, that probably wouldn't be the case. But anything that would be off the norm, then we would ask for tax returns. Otherwise, if you're pretty much straightforward W-2 employee, 2 months pay stubs, 2 years W-2s, you're good to go. As I said, if there's any other income that you're receiving, such as maybe spousal report or spousal support, child support, things like that, we would want documentation on that as well. Bank statements, asset statements, where's the money coming from for the down payment and closing costs if it's needed? We're going to want 2 months statements for those. Again, we're going to ask these things that might also, you may get the money from child support or alimony, but you also might be paying it. So we're going to need to know that if it's not being disclosed on the credit report, and just anything other pertinent information that could affect the loan. So we're going to gather all that up front. This process, once I have all this information, and it could all be done digital, over scanning and sending it over internet to me, all can be done within a day. The process is not very complicated. Once I have all the information, it's easy for me to make that determination of where you're at, and then you have that pre-approval and you're good to go. Of course, we need your photo ID. So some of the programs, really, Majority of the loans that we do are conforming loans. And that's, like I say, minimum 3%. And that 3%, as I said earlier, can be a gift. There are down payment assistance programs that have some qualifying that can help with that 3%. FHA loans, just a different, or a government-backed loan program, they allow 3.5%. There's the VA that we touched on. If you're a veteran and you have your eligibility, and you can buy a home using your VA eligibility with 0 down. It's a great program. I love the VA program. Obviously, it's for veterans and active military only. The type of loans that I do right now, especially because mortgage rates are at historic lows, it's 30-year fixed. We're 3% or under. We have adjustable rates, but they don't even play anymore. There's no advantage to do an adjustable rate when fixed rates are just so low. So I'm not even going to touch on it. I said, the down payment assistance programs, I could do a whole seminar on just those, but just know that they're potentially out there for you. And that's pretty much it on the loan process. Obviously, when you make your decision, I would love you to talk to me, Land Home. Partner with an excellent realtor like Ellen, and just some bullet points for us. I'm going to look now just kind of in the chat to see if there's some questions. I'm going to get out of this.
I saw some questions, Bill.
I want to hit on one though, on the one I saw earlier in regards to, sorry, I don't have your name. I think Catherine or something, as far as the rent control. And that's a personal, the question was, is it still advantageous to buy a home when you're in rent control and the rent's lower than a mortgage payment? And that comes down to a real personal choice. I always am a proponent, obviously, of home ownership just for the wealth creation that it brings. If you have to, make some sacrifices for a higher payment, I think the rewards off the future appreciation, the pride of ownership, the tax benefits, all the things that go with ownership probably would make up that difference. But again, that's going to be a personal decision on your part. I always, I looked at, if you take I'm just going to throw out a $450,000 sales price. If you did 5% down, the mortgage with everything included is about $2,475. So I look in, our area, what's going for rents. I don't know where obviously everyone's living, but I think a general average, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Ellen, is about $2,700 in rent. Higher in some areas, Walnut Creek, I'm sure is 3,000 plus. So, to really get in and talk to someone and just see, wow, I didn't realize that I could do this. I, have limited, money available, but I can still do it. My mortgage payment's going to be that. Wow. Because the tax benefit, and again, that could be a whole seminar too, rent versus buy, but the benefits you get from ownership on tax-wise, as she mentioned, being able to bring more home on a monthly basis, but an added write-off at the end of the year. They always say whatever you're paying in rent, you should be able to go $400 or $500 over that with a mortgage payment, and still kind of equates yourself to the same number.
Mm. Well, I actually want to address that question. I saw that question in the chat box. So I just wanted to give you a general example. People who bought the house 40 years ago paying $100,000 for that home, that was very expensive for them at that time. But now whoever paid $100,000 40 years ago, now they have $1 million sitting on their house that's already paid off. And that became their retirement plan without having to think about Social Security and all that stuff. Not to mention that during the homeownership process, while you're making your mortgage payments, that you are also enjoying some tax benefits. It is the appreciation of the property value that a renter will never see, and they will just keep paying rent. That is a very, very deceiving approach. When people think that because of rent control, then the monthly rental payment will be limited in terms of the rent increase. but then that will just make you feel comfortable to continue to rent. And if you're not a homeowner, you will not be able to see the appreciation of the property. And what you're doing as a renter, that you are helping the landlord to see the appreciation of their property over time. Yes. Let me see. And so thank you, Bill, for your presentation. Then I remember there was a kitty cat face that when we talked about it, you had a kitty cat face. You want to show that?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, then let us forget it. But what I wanted to, okay. Oh, actually, I found it. Let me
I
see.
stopped sharing. So.
Okay, you stop. Okay, stop sharing.
But I see the comments. Yeah, 450 in our area is low. That's,
Yeah.
you're right. You can find that in certain areas, maybe in Antioch, and there are. I've just matter of fact went into contract on a property in Antioch at 405. So they're out there, but I get what you're saying. If you're in a certain area, I don't know, maybe it's Concord, San Leandro, wherever, the home prices are up. They're going to be higher, and that is our challenge. I'll be the first to admit it, that prices are high in the area, and being able to get to that number of qualifying is always going to be the challenge. But you have to look and start somewhere. You talk about ownership, maybe as I do other seminars, I talk to people about your ideal area might be Walnut Creek, but right now you're qualifying for somewhere out, a little further out. And so maybe you make that choice to do that as a starter. No homes forever. You're in there for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, gathering appreciation, and then being able to sell out of that and move up to another home is a possibility as well. But again, it's the personal choices, and somebody else had mentioned you are seeing one of these questions about the urban.
In San Francisco, what we are seeing is that because there are a lot of high rises in San Francisco, and we do see more people moving out of, including Manhattan, that people are moving out of the high density areas and moving out to the suburb. So, and also what I'm hearing is that San Francisco condo rents are coming down, but what we're also seeing is that this population in metropolitan areas, they are moving to the suburbs, like Bill just said, because now they don't have to worry about having to live close to work. They can live anywhere they want. And then also the lifestyle in San Francisco before is that it's close to all these restaurants and all the happenings, but all the restaurants are only limited to outdoor dining or takeout, and some fancy restaurants are even closed for the time being. So the lifestyle has changed, and because of all the room that is needed for people to have a home office or have children being kind of homeschool, so they are now looking for more rooms than ever before. So they're looking more in the suburbs where they can spread out. They don't have to get in an elevator before they can go into their homes. Then they can minimize contact with other people. And in San Francisco, a 2-bedroom condo used to be just plenty sufficient. Then you only go out to work and then only come home to sleep. But now 2-bedroom is not sufficient anymore. That people are looking for a 3rd bedroom for the home office and a 4th bedroom for the kids to be learning from home, as the schools are opening for remote learning. So we're seeing more people moving to single-family homes, and even rents in Walnut Creek have been going up for single-family homes, but not so much in apartments and condos. people are looking for more spread out land.
And then I'm going to jump in. So I think it's Wolde, who is responsible for closing costs in the Bay Area, Alameda, Contra Costa. Pretty much the buyer is responsible for majority of the closing costs. But I'll say that as a statement to start with, but everything's negotiable. But in general, the buyer is responsible for escrow, title, closing lender fees, closing costs. And then Thomas Kelly, if you got a 10% cut and it's permanent, as a lender, we're going to look at what your new salary base is when we're qualifying. So that probably would have a negative impact just on that level of what you would qualify for. If they did 10% across the board, pay cut, and it's permanent, then we're going to go with whatever that new pay structure is. And then the only other is KG. I wish I was here on this island or this beach, but it's a virtual background. It just makes me feel good from all this shelter in place.
Yeah, and I also saw a question from Selom. What do you think of borrowing money like a down payment assistance program from County of Alameda? For what I know, the down payment assistance programs are city by city, so there is no county program. So if you want to check into any city, that you can check with the particular city that you
just to touch on that, we're approved lenders for AC Boost. It's a great program. I'd always recommend. They have limited funds and you have to be registered with them, and it's almost a first come first serve as far as getting in and trying to access the funds that are available. So if you Google AC Boost, you can read more about that program, and we are on their list of approved lenders.
Okay, this is an interesting question from Tom. If I own a mobile home, would I be qualified for first-time home buyer programs? If he owns a mobile home, will he be qualified as a first-time home buyer?
The qualification for first-time home buyers will need 3 years tax returns to show no mortgage interest deduction. So if you own a mobile home and you're not reporting it, then we don't know about it. But if it's showing on your tax return, because it is depending on we do mobile homes only if they're attached to a permanent foundation. So if this is in a park and you just own the home, that's something different. I doubt you would be having, I would just have to look at your situation. I think you would be okay, but I don't want to make that statement as fact.
Okay. And I noticed that the time now is actually 11:06. Some of you may have to go back to work. And let me see if there's any pressing questions that you would like us to address. Then, here's a good question. I have co-signed my brother to buy a home 3 years ago. Would he be considered first-time home buyer?
No. Again, you're not taking the deduction on your tax returns. You have a different address you're living. It shows on all your personal information is a different address, I'm hoping. So no, we would just require 12 months canceled checks from the person that actually has the loan to show that you are not responsible for it as the cosigner. Okay. And that would not count against you. Okay.
All right. Well, yes. Thank you.
Just on real quick, the last one is the W-2s don't always, if we have the tax returns, you can't really know what makes up that box that says, what wages, salaries, tips, and when you put a number in there, we need the W-2 to verify what that number is. There could be 2 or 3 jobs. There could have been, different circumstances we see. That's why we just need the W-2s if you're a W-2 employee, and we don't necessarily need the tax returns.
Okay. See, I understand that the loan pre-approval process, the loan process is very complex and it needs a lot of cross-checking. And so therefore, it is very, very important for any home buyers considering buying a home to speak with a lender like Bill first before you even start the process. Otherwise, that you will pick an area that you like and you keep looking and looking online nowadays. You keep looking and looking and looking and you have your dream home that you actually cannot afford to buy, or you can actually afford to actually buy in a higher price bracket. And without talking to a lender, you just won't know what kind
Yeah.
of monthly mortgage payment that you're comfortable with, and so on and so forth. So
And Lauren, and real quick on Lauren, just my last one I'm going to answer here. I'll just say, if you're looking to buy a car, it's not that you have to wait 6 months. I don't know where you heard that. That's absolutely not true. It's just that we immediately will take that car payment and use it in the ratios that we're using to see what you qualify. So that will negatively impact what you can qualify for, because now you have an added debt. So if you're looking to buy a home now, I would say if there's any possibility to sacrifice and get just the repair of the car and then buy the home and then buy the car afterwards, it would strengthen your buying power by not having a car payment, if that makes sense. But if it's something you have to do, you have to do it. But you don't have to wait 6 months.
Okay, great. So the time now is, wow, 11:10. I'm sure there are a lot more questions. If you have questions, please feel free to send an email to Bill or me, and we'll be happy to address your questions via email. And if you'd like to talk to us about your personal situation of home buying, then we'll be happy to talk to you on an individual basis as well. And I want to thank all of you for attending this seminar. I hope you found this seminar informative, and I hope you have a lot of important and valuable information as you continue to go forward with your home buying.